Welcome everybody to today's get together that we're calling I.P.A.D Your Wealth. I'm really pleased and excited that you're decided to join us today. And as you recall in my email, we can certainly tell that times are changing rather quickly. And because of that, we have to be made aware of the regulations that are coming and that are in place so we can better steward the resources that the Lord has given us. We're told in Scripture that the Lord's given us the power to gain wealth, that we might establish His covenant, and that we also might be good stewards of that which He's given us and trusted us to. So He's pleased with what we do with the talents that we have on earth before He comes back. And so knowing how to use your money and using it properly and guarding it and protecting it is vital. And many times, as you know, there are changes in the economy and the governments that we have that are working over us, for us, around us. And so you're well aware that that can have a drastic impact on your wealth. And so if we're not aware of those changes, we can either miss out on a huge blessing or we can end up being robbed out of our hard-earned wealth. And a wise strategy is basically to ensure that we stay abreast of those changes, and it also explores additional vehicles to accelerate our earnings. We often call it other sources of revenue, but wealth doesn't happen by accident. It requires a well thought out strategy that can be consistently executed. And so today, as we launch our Wealth Builders Academy that's designed to train you in the critical understandings you're going to need to move forward in this new economy and give you access to solid, trusted training to help you strategize your plan to basically grow and accelerate your earnings, to protect them from wealth and wealth litigation or theft, if you will, and finally to preserve and shelter your income from unfair taxes so that you basically have more to give and so that you have more to take care of those basic fundamentals as our life end comes to a close. And so today I'm really excited to share this important training with you called I.P.A.D Your Wealth with my good friend Marlon Smith, who's looking sharp driving in his car there. We met about 30 years ago. We were two young men wanting to make a big difference in the world and basically help people with this complex subject that we call life with all of its ups and downs. And Marlon went on to go build a successful company called Success by Choice, and he's now spoken all over the United States, and he's facilitated seminars in 18 additional countries. He's also been the lead presenter for Tony Robbins' Global Youth Leadership Summit for more than 21 years. And he's also a certified financial education instructor and a legacy wealth strategist. He does a show called The Real Money Coach with his business partner, Tony Jackson, who's joining us here today. And so I'm going to turn it over to Marlon, this duo here, to unpack for you the I.P.A.D Your Money program. So Marlon, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you take it away.
Thank you, Roger. I'm so excited to be here. I'm telling you this, you're in the right place at the right time. It will take about 30 minutes, and I promise you this, what we're going to share is going to transform not only your life, but as well as COVID-19 has definitely turned things upside down in so many ways. I mean, you think about the global pandemic and the impact of, the mandatory stay-at-home orders, and how that impacted our economy. You think about, just so many things were just really, flipped upside down. And so one of the things that we have to understand is this. Have you ever asked yourself, if I had only known back then what I know now, how would my life be different, right? And we all have. And so today, I.P.A.D Your Money, increase, protect, and dominate your money. I'm very excited. My colleague, Tony Jackson, over 23 years of success in the financial services industry. He's a husband. He's a father of 4, a grandfather of 3. And most importantly, he's a heart-centered leader. And so you are in for a treat. And again, this is interactive. We are excited to reconnect with you. And if you have any questions, any thoughts that we don't answer today, and for those of you that are watching the recording, please, you can send an email to Tony, Tony, at therealmoneycoach.com. Okay? Because we are committed to making a difference. Because remember this, a vision without action is just a dream. A lot of action without a vision is merely a passing of time. But a vision with action can change the world. Tony, I turn it over to you, my brother.
Awesome, awesome. Can you guys hear me okay? You may have not,
Coming
Roger.
in loud and clear.
All right, great. Roger, thank you so much for this opportunity to talk to some of your close-knit network. And Marlon, what can I say about this guy? Roger, you've known him longer than I have. You're talking about the top of the top, the best of the best, traveling the world, making a difference in people's lives. And that's really what we're about, is just making a difference in people's lives. And I love one of the things that Marlon says. He says, I do what I do the best, and then the I leave the rest up to other people that's uh, their wheelhouse, so to speak. And so I'm just excited about sharing some information with you and with your colleagues today. And so as Marlon mentioned, and you mentioned, this is called I.P.A.D, which is I.P.A.D is increase, protect, and dominate your wealth. And Roger, if it's okay, I'm going to turn my screen on and I'm going to jump right into the presentation. And
You
let's see.
betcha. Watch, I'm going to make sure you are co-hosting here. You should have the ability to there you go. There you go. You got it.
We got it. Love it. So I'm going to minimize this, pull this out of the way.
Look at that smile.
That is not one of my favorite pictures, Roger, but
it looks good. It looks
all right.
smart.
So here we are. My name is Tony Jackson. As I mentioned, I am part of this duo we call the Real Money Coach, along with Marlon Smith. And our goal is really this: is help you achieve a state of financial wellness so that you can live the lifestyle you desire. One of the key things right there is it doesn't say anything about age. It doesn't say anything about money, because that's different for everyone, depending on what your goals are and what you want to accomplish. But we're excited about sharing this information. Again, this particular presentation is called I.P.A.D, which is increase, protect, and dominate your money. Now, honestly, most financial advisors, and I've been in this business for 23 years plus, they really stop at increasing. How do I increase your wealth, your money, the size of your brokerage account? Because frankly, we get paid by assets under management. The more of your money that we manage, the more we make. But they seem to stop right there. And then you have these insurance guys run around and all they want to talk about is protect, insure, insure, insure. And we know that that's important. Now, I'm a firm believer in that those two things should not be mutually exclusive. Really, they should be working together, and thus increase and protect. And once we have found that you've learned how to increase and protect your money, now you can dominate. And dominate really means dominion, which means have control over your money. So rather than the government, rather than a brokerage account, rather than Wall Street controlling your money, we want you to have dominion over your own funds. So as we move forward here, financial wellness, what exactly does that mean? In our world, financial wellness really, there's 5 what I call cornerstones to it. And the first one of those is stock market protection. How do you protect yourself from the up and downs of the stock market? And so we're going to talk about a strategy that allows you to take advantage of the market when it goes up and have no losses when the market goes down. For many of you, that may sound very familiar. And then the other is income tax protection. Certainly we know this. We know that the trajectory of our national debt, the trajectory of the way things are going, that we have this freight train coming down on us called taxes. And how do we put ourselves in the lowest possible income tax bracket, especially in retirement? Those 2 pieces right there, we're going to really unpack that. And then to round it out, there's medical cost protection, or what some people call medical aging protection. We know most bankruptcies, well, at least 60% of them, 40% of foreclosures have followed some type of major medical crisis. But from a financial planning standpoint, we look at it as a way to protect ourselves so that if we ever need nursing care, ever need assisted living, that we have the ability to protect our income, our assets, so that we don't have to spend all those before Medicare or Medicaid covers any of those type of expenses. The fourth one is legacy protection. 50% of adults have no life insurance. Certainly 70% of all Americans said they realize they do not have enough. But more than just talking about life insurance in terms of when you die, life insurance really is a great wealth building tool, and it certainly is a very powerful wealth transfer tool. And so we know that 60% of all wealth transfer has some type of tactical use of life insurance. This is not your grandma's life insurance. This is the new age life insurance that really helps in those areas. And then we have the legal protection or estate planning, if you will. 70% of Americans have no will, healthcare power of attorney. And so we feel like that's very important, because if we've had all these other things we've done, we protected ourselves from the stock market and taxes and medical costs and left a legacy, why leave it up to the court system to determine how those things will be distributed to your loved ones? So that kind of rounds out our 5 key areas in terms of financial wellness. As we move on, how does money work? Everyone wants to know that. Well, normally when we're talking wealth, retirement, all those types of things, normally we're talking stocks, mutual funds, and the really good news there is that you can make a lot of money in the stock market. That is great news. On the other side of that coin is that we also know that there's also risk involved. It's also the higher the return, the higher the risk. And unfortunately, a lot of people will become have a risk adverse relationship. And so they'll do things like bank accounts, money market accounts, things that we can get at the local bank or the local credit union. And we know that the risk of losing our money inside of a bank account is very, very, very low. Well, the problem is they're not paying interest rates like they did in the 80s either. So the return is low. And actually the return is so much lower than the inflation that you're actually losing buying power. We say this, that you're protecting your money, but you're going broke slowly and protected, losing buying power, which then is the reason why we coach a strategy called a fixed index strategy. And how that strategy works, ladies and gentlemen, is that that strategy gives you the best of both worlds. So when the market is going up, you're making money, but when the market goes down, you're not losing any money. And so, yes, it's true. You're getting your cake and you're eating it and keeping your cake too. The same thing. You're protecting your money in a down market, but you're taking advantage of the market when it's a bull market. So let's take a look. We know this. We cannot predict the future. No one knows what's going to happen to the market as we move forward into 2021 and years beyond. So what we do is we take a look at a historical perspective. This on your screen is the S&P 500, which it happens to be the 500 largest publicly traded companies in the United States, SPX. So this is a better index to watch even than the Dow Jones, because we're looking at 500 companies. So we're looking at a large sampling of US companies. You're talking Nike, Apple, Amazon, American Airlines, General Motors, all the big boys. A lot of news recently because we're going to have a new member of the S&P 500 being Tesla Motors. So when we look at this over the last 20 years, we know that there's been some dips in the market, some crashes happened in the early 2000s, happened again in 2008. That's a normal pattern. Every 20 years or so, we have these type of market corrections. Since 2008, the market had really been on a great run. There was a negative year in 2018, but it really had been historical returns on the market. The problem is not that these things happen, we expect that, but how long does it take to recover? 23% loss in 2002, 38% loss in 2008, but it took 8 years for the market from those 3 down years in 2000, 2001, 2002. Took 8 years for the market to get back where it was in 1999. Then we're there for, it seems like just a moment, and then the crash of 2008, the mortgage crisis, we lose 38% in 1 year. Takes another 5 years to recover from that. So all in all, we're looking at 13 years of your investment life. And I am sure that if I came knocking on your door and I told you Roger, I got this wonderful investment, put all your money in here, and I'm going to come back in 13 years and you're going to have the same amount of money you started with.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
My guess is that you probably laughed me out of your house, right?
Yeah.
So that's just not very appealing. But yet that's what people are experiencing unknowingly. And so now, all of that was before this thing called COVID-19 came and turned the whole market upside down. Our government ends up putting $5 trillion of money into the economy to avoid this type of long lag in terms of the market coming back. But according to the Congressional Budget Office, they're still expecting this thing to be 10 years, a whole decade before we really get back to where we were. So if we know this, what do we do about it? And that's where the fixed index strategy comes in. Very, very powerful, moving you off of the red line onto the blue line. The red line looks like a roller coaster, and folks, I do not do roller coaster, right? I like a nice, steady ride. So when we get to the blue line, now when the market goes down, we're not losing anything, we're staying the same. When the market goes up, we make money. So when we're looking at the same amount of money, same market, same time frame, we get out here to 2007 and 8 and the market crashes, everyone else is losing money, they're on the edge of the bridge, and you are just simply staying exactly where you were, not losing not one penny. And so what really makes this work, folks, is that we're never digging out of a hole. And I am simple enough to believe that the quickest way up is not to be going down. And what this does, it puts you in a position where you're either always making money or you're staying the same. And if you've been in this business as long as I have and others, we recognize this gentleman named Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett is probably the greatest investor of our times, arguably could be the greatest investor of our time. Now, the reporter asked Warren, said, what is your rule for investing? What's your rule in money? And he simply said this: never lose money. Now, that makes a whole lot of sense to a whole lot of people. Okay, I get that. That sounds like a great rule. All right, so what's rule number 2? He says, don't forget rule number 1. And so this indexing strategy, this fixed index strategy, is how we help everyday Americans, working people like you and I, to be in a position where you're never losing money. And we think that's very paramount to what we do. When we look at it from a practical standpoint, this is one of the companies that we use for this indexing strategy. Now, again, here on the left side, we have the S&P 500. These are actual returns, 2000, 2001, 2002, 10% loss, 13% loss, 23% loss, respectively, in those years. With the indexing strategy, you lose nothing, 0. So then the market starts to go back up again. It's doing its normal thing. We get to 2008. It does its normal thing, crashes at 38%. With the fixed indexing strategy, there's no losses. And so when we look at this over a 20-year period of time, ending, December 31st, 2019, we see that the S&P has averaged about 4%. Add another couple percentage points for reinvested dividends, that type of thing. But here we're looking at around 10.2% with the fixed index strategy. Now, folks, what really makes this work is the fact that we keep you out of the red. If you're never losing money, you don't have to make up for money. we look under the first red box there on the left, we see that 2003 was a great year, 26% return. But you got to make up for the 23% you lost the year before that. Not to mention the 13 the year before that or the 10 before that. Same thing with 2009, great year, 23% return. But you got to make up for the 38% you lost the year before. And so if we never have any negatives, we never have to make up for those things. And certainly in the long term, even the short term for that matter, it turns out to be a much more stable investment choice. Now, this strategy is what we use for rollovers. If people have 401ks, if they have nest eggs, if they have 403bs, so for rollovers, as well as people who are still in the accumulation phase, which we'll get into here in a second, if you're still building your wealth, it's great to be in a position to never lose money. If you've already built it, whether that money is sitting in a CD earning practically nothing, or if it's sitting in a brokerage account exposed to the market, this is certainly something that you want to consider and take a closer look at. I'm not saying that it's for everyone, and I'm not saying that it's all for all of your money either, but it's certainly something that you should consider. After all, we never put all our eggs in one basket. A few moments ago, I quoted Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett has another quote that I like. He says that he actually pays less in income taxes than his secretary. And so can you imagine that? So we have to talk about taxes. Taxes are so important. What you see on your screen is a representation of every dollar collected by the Internal Revenue Service. 92% of it goes to really 4 programs, especially if you throw defense spending in there. Social Security, interest on the national debt, Medicare, and Medicaid. Now, when we think about this and we think about our present time and even what COVID-19 has done to this, if you look at Social Security alone, Social Security, there was 50 million people filed for unemployment benefits this year. That means there's 50 million people and their employers that are not paying into the Social Security Trust Fund. Yet every day we have 10,000 people in our country turning age 65. We call it the baby boomer generation. And what do you do at age 65? You go down and you file for your Social Security benefits. So we have a perfect storm that's happening there. You have 50,000 less people putting into the trust fund, and you have 10,000 people every day more taking out. Question is, where's that money going to come from? And even beyond that, if you're younger and you're not drawing Social Security, you're thinking, what is going to be left when my time comes to draw Social Security? Then we move over to the interest on the national debt. Remember a few moments ago, I told you that the government put $5 trillion into the economy. Stimulus checks, increased unemployment benefits, loans to small businesses, etc. Thank God for those things because we needed it. But where'd the money come from? We borrow the money from other nations, other countries. And when you borrow money, what comes along with it? Interest payments, not even talking about the principal. So again, my question becomes, where's that money going to come from? And when you think about the exposure we have, it is the exact reason why the American Tax Planning Institute says our biggest threat to our financial future and security is actually taxes. So let's take a look at this. This is interesting. If you get a chance, Google the National Debt Calculator and you will find the current version of this. This was taken a couple of months ago. And what has happened is that our government has assigned over $200,000 to every taxpayer. So of the national debt, they're saying your portion of that at this time was $202,000. Today, it's over $218,000. Now, folks, this did not happen overnight. This has been years This has been administration after administration, decade after decade, that we found ourselves in this condition. But when asked, what are we going to do about it? The simple answer was basically nothing. It was said in different times, we'd fix the deficit. Now's not the time to worry about it. Well, when will the time be to worry about it? Is it when you retire, when I retire, when our kids retire, my grandkids? Sooner or later, someone's got to pay this bill. So let me get a couple things straight. Let me get this straight. If you have a working wage and you get a paycheck, they are taking taxes out of that check. And then you turn around and you go out and you go to the supermarket, you go to the store, you buy anything from food to a pair of shoes. You got to pay taxes on what you're buying with money that's already been taxed. And then we turn around in April, we file our income tax form, and we find out that if we haven't paid enough in taxes, we got to write another check to the IRS. And then when we get to the end of our glory days and the Lord calls us home, we find out that our beneficiaries may have to pay death taxes on the money that's already been taxed. And simply, this is me on the screen with my hand over my face saying, this cannot actually be true. But unfortunately it is. And that's why we simply have to talk about the IRS and how much do you owe. When I ask people this question across the country, how much do you owe the IRS? Generally, they'll tell me nothing. I pay my taxes every year. I don't owe the IRS anything. And unfortunately, if you have a 403B or 401k or 457, a KEO or SEP, any type of tax qualified plan, you owe the IRS. Because you simply cannot walk into your human resource office, call the brokerage up and say, I want my money and not pay any taxes.
Yeah, they'll laugh at you.
They'll laugh at you, exactly. Here's the fact, Roger. When you get some out, he gets some out. He is a complete partner in your retirement account. And this is the only partner that goes to Washington every year and can determine how much of a partnership they own of your retirement account. Every Congress can change those rules. And so our retirement accounts are really low-hanging fruit for taxation. And so we have to talk about tax planning. Now, tax planning is much different than tax preparation. Tax preparation is, how do I pay the least amount of taxes every April? Tax planning is, how do I pay the least amount of taxes in my lifetime? And so here we go. We got 3 buckets of money. One is taxable, tax it now. The other is tax deferred, tax it later. And the third bucket is tax free or tax it never. The question I ask is, which of these buckets is better? Generally speaking, what everyone tells me is this. They will tell me that the tax-free bucket is better. And I 100% agree with you. The problem is that we put all our money in the tax-deferred bucket. It grows tax-deferred, but comes out taxable. It never hits the tax-free bucket. And if we all agree that the tax-free bucket is better, then why aren't we putting anything there? It's simply because we haven't been coached to do that. And so what we coach is allow the money to go in taxable, allow it to grow tax deferred, but come out tax-free. In other words, the analogy we like is if you have a $20,000 seed and that seed grows to a $200,000 harvest, would you rather pay taxes on the seed or on the harvest? And I always say this, as for me and my house, I'd rather pay taxes on the seed than the harvest.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer, right?
That's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer if I ever saw one. So let's sum this up. Here are the traditional money rules. Traditional money rules say this. You have to risk money in order to make money. We've heard that cliche all our life. There's probably some truth to it, but there's different levels of risk. And then there's this 59.5 rule. And what that rule basically says, it's an IRS code that basically says this, is that if you take money out of your tax qualified plan prior to age 59.5, there is a 10% penalty for pulling the money out plus ordinary income tax. Then on the other end of retirement, there's this RMD, required minimum distribution rule. What that rule says is at age 72, if you have not started taking money out of your retirement plan, there is a 50% penalty for not taking the money out. And so according to the IRS, if you are supposed to take out $10,000 and you don't, there'll be a $5,000 tax penalty plus the income taxes on the money. And then ultimately
they hit you coming and going.
They hit you coming and going. And then no matter when you take it out, you're going to pay income tax. And so, Roger, I look at this and I begin to ask myself this question. Whose money is this anyway? They're telling me how much I can put in. They're telling me how long I have to leave it there. They're telling me when I have to take it out. Is it really mine?
Yeah.
And I want to put a footnote here just for 2020, is that due to the CARES Act of COVID that came about because of COVID-19, you can actually avoid the 10% penalty this year if you take money out prior to 59.5, up to 100,000. You don't have to adhere to the 72, the RMD rule for 2020, and the income taxes are still due, but can be spread over 3 years. Just a footnote that may make a difference for some people as they're planning going down the stretch of 2020. So, Roger, what we do is we bring in what we call the smart money rules. Smart money rules say this: no market risk. That's where we move you off of the red line onto the blue line. No 59.5 rule, no RMD rule, and no income tax. Now,
that's like working smarter than harder, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the question is just that, Roger. Do you want to play by the traditional money rules, or do you want to play by the smart money rules? And I always say, again, my choice, smart money rules all day long.
Yeah, anybody that went to school can figure that one out, right? I think a 3-year-old could get that.
Absolutely. So let me sum this up with a quick story of two employees. We could say two individuals, two siblings, both 37 years old, married with children, earning money, wanting to save money for retirement. And I caution you, the numbers aren't important that we're going to look at, but the concept. And so the gentleman, he decides to do a traditional 401k through his work. So he's going to put $5,000 a year in there. And in this case, we're being very generous in saying that his employer is going to match 50% of that. And so his employer is going to put an additional $2,500 into his retirement account. He knows he needs some life insurance. He goes out, he buys a $500,000 30-year term policy, cost him $1,060 a year. So when we look at this, his total contribution, not counting his employer, is about $6,060 a year. Employee B, on the other hand, she has nothing going into 401k, no employer match. She goes out and she buys a $500,000 index universal life policy. It is a permanent type of insurance, cash value. Nothing new, folks. Ray Crockett, the owner of McDonald's, founder of McDonald's, Walt Disney, Disneyland, J.C. Penney, Pampered Chef, all these folks have used this concept to start their businesses. So she's going to put about the same amount of money, $6,000, into this cash value life insurance. In addition to that, she goes out and she gets herself a family legal plan. So the thing about it is we have to remember this. It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. So when we get into the retirement years, 30 years later, retired at age 67, with her plan, the life insurance serves like a pension. She's going to get $38,000 per year, lifetime income, zero taxes. And because it is a lifetime income, she's going to never run out of money. Regardless of how long she lives, that $38,000 is going to continue to come for the rest of her life. And we're saying if she lives to be age 90, her total income that she would have pulled out of this policy would be $880,000 in zero taxes over that time frame. Now, for him to match what she's getting, he's got to take out $51,000 of his 401k every year so that 25% can go to taxes. Now, that's assuming that tax rates don't go up, which most of us think that's very unlikely. State tax, federal tax, you name it, even causing your Social Security to be taxed. So at 25% tax rate, it takes out $13,000. That leaves him a net of $38,000 per year. At that rate, his money would run out in 11 years. 11 years, he would have no funds left in his 401k. Now, who's more financially healthy? Obviously, we think that she's more financially healthy. Now, I'll give you this. This is my disclaimer. This sounds like a beautiful story. You have this job and you work this job for 30 years. We know that doesn't happen very often anymore, but in this story, you know, it's the perfect story. We work for 30 years. We retire at age 67. We buy a convertible and we drive off into the sunset. But many of us know that life doesn't quite work that way. Life tends to have some bends, some curves along the way. There's some rough road, there's some construction, there's some things that happen. And so I wanted to just give you one scenario. Let's say there's a scenario at age 75, 8 years after they retire, that there's a need for some type of assisted living care. Whether that's a temporary need or maybe it's permanent, doesn't matter. So at that point in this, his money that he started with, which would have been about $582,000, is now down to $174,000. He's got no life insurance. Remember, that expired. The average cost of assisted living in our country is $48,000 per year. Now, in order to get the $48,000, he's got to take out $64,000 because the IRS, the state, everyone else who's in this thing, in this tax game, has got to get their portion of that. So again, if we're assuming that it stays at about 25%, he still has to take out $64,000 in order to get the 48. At that rate of withdrawing from his account, that money would run out in 2 years and 9 months. Now, she, on the other hand, has $330,000 of cash value left in her IUL, her index universal life policy. She also has $541,000 of death benefit remaining, and she also has $343,000 of critical illness and chronic illness coverage. That's things that cover like heart attack, stroke, organ transplant, kidney failure, any of those type of critical illnesses. The chronic illness is when you need help doing 2 of the 6 daily activities of living: eating, dressing, bathing, and what have you. Again, at an average of $48,000 per year, that coverage would last about 7 years. And what's so significant about that is that the look back period, in order to get, Medicare or Medicaid to pay any of those, is a 5-year look back period. And so she's well beyond that if she hasn't already used that legal plan to plan for those things. So the bottom line is this. The bottom line is he's got no estate plan. That's done. There's no family legacy. It's been taken by the nursing home. There's no life insurance. There's nothing there. And therefore, there's no generational wealth. And so obviously we feel, and I think you guys can see here, that she's in a much better position. So bottom line is, I always ask,
what's her name so I can go marry her?
Is she single? I don't know if she's single, Roger, but if you had to choose one of these 5 things that we really talked about today, the question is, which one of these 5 would you choose? You want stock market protection, you want income tax protection, medical aging protection, legacy, legal. Which one do you really want?
Yeah, that's no fair, man. I want them all.
Well, Roger, here's the good news, is you don't have to choose. We can give them all to you if you qualify. Those who qualify, we can give you all of those things. The only thing that you have to do is choose to take action. And really, that's the hardest part for most people is deciding to take action. But I just said that the definition of insanity is to continue to do the same things you're doing, but expecting different results. Now, we're not saying that this is for everyone, but we certainly think that there's enough there to warrant a deeper investigation.
And Tony, it's interesting too, because so many people think, well, when I get to making a little more money, then I'll go ahead and do it. Right. And they put it off and they put it off. And I regret now, being 54. I didn't say that. So, my I still think I'm 25, but my driver's license and the government are a conspiracy to tell me I'm 54. But, when I was young, 18, 19, 20, just someone barely touched on this and I put it off, and I wish I would have made a decision then, because that's the habit. We put it off thinking, well, I'll do it later when I get a little bit more money. And then we run into a very, very difficult situation.
Yeah, and Roger, and the thing about it is that there's such great vehicles out there. There's one of the things that I didn't mention that this bears need to mention, and it's this program we call a Kaizen. And Kaizen is a strategy, if you will, that allows a client to actually get a 3-to-1 match in what they're putting into this product. And so it's really an outstanding product. And like I mentioned, the fact that you get 3-to-1 matching and leverage is so remarkable. No interest payment, no loan documents, but to get a 3-to-1 match, 5 annual payments, and it's just like using leverage in your retirement. It's those type of vehicles that are out there today that many people just don't know about. And it just makes a lot of sense to, just learn as much as we can so that we can employ those things and make them happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Those vehicles, used to be reserved for the wealthy and the rich. And now, that's the way they accelerated and grew their income quickly. So now with the new regulations, right, that's now available to people in different financial positions.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And like I mentioned, I've been doing this for 23 years. And to do something like that Kaizen I just mentioned, in years past, we'd have to have audited financial statements. We'd have to have, we'd have to know what your net worth was. We'd have to know what your credit was. We'd have to know what your collateral was. We wanted everything, and also put a lien on your left arm, and so. But today we've eliminated a lot of those obstacles that allows people to get on that playing field, so that they can run with the big boys, as they say.
Yeah. Yeah. That's powerful. It's so powerful. It's just, I was reading, sent out an email last night, and just shocking how financial illiteracy is the #1 economic crisis in the world today. 7 out of 10 people don't understand how money works, and understanding these vehicles and employing them now in their life is so critical to ensuring that they have, a dignified retirement instead of
Right.
having to, work at Walmart or the dollar store or whatever in their 70s and 80s because they just don't have the resources. So, and then of
It,
course,
it, it's like the old thing, and I can't remember where it came from, but it's like, what's the best day to plant a tree? It would have been 20 years ago. What's the next best time to plant a tree? Today.
today, yeah,
And so, you know, we take what we have learned, we take the things that are available today, and we just, make sure that they fit.
yeah,
And, I'm just a firm believer, and, you educate yourself. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, even if it's my basket. I say that all the time. My mother just drilled that in me. Maybe Karen and some folks remember being told, don't put all your eggs in one basket, and just drill them in. And I just firmly believe that. But there's so many wonderful baskets out there to choose from, rather than just going along with the status quo.
yeah, yeah. Well, we really appreciate this today, Tony, and what you guys bring to the table. I know it's going to be a tremendous blessing. And just on the end here, how do people get a hold of you if they like what you're talking about, and if they want to dive deeper and looking at these and seeing how to include them in their financial strategy? What's the best way, again, for them to get a hold of you?
Well, one way is, and I'll put my email in the chat, is you can always email me at Tony Jackson, or Tony at therealmoneycoach.com. That's one way. And so I put that in the chat, Tony at therealmoneycoach.com. And really, I really love it when people just go in and just schedule yourself. So if you go to Tony Jackson appointment.com, you can pick out a day and time that's most convenient for you, and you're right on my calendar, and we can have a great conversation. And everything begins with that conversation. So I put both of those in the chat box, Tony at therealmoneycoach.com or TonyJacksonappointment.com.
All right.
And we'll have a great conversation. I love having those conversations. And then, we'll see, if there's things that I could recommend. A lot of times, Roger, it's a matter of even me going to say, hey, you need to go to your broker and ask for this, or you need to go to your person and ask for this. It's not always about you moving or changing carriers or companies or that type of thing. Sometimes it's just a matter of, I can give you some tweaks, some right things to ask, so that it just kind of helps and puts you in a better position.
Yeah, and it's important. Like we said in the beginning, the laws and regulations have changed so much, and it's really a good idea if you have a strategy to take it out, dust the, brush off the dust, reevaluate, what you've been doing, compare it with what's changed, and decide what changes you need to make. If you don't have a strategy, now's the time to do it. And so Tony and Marlon are the team to help you guys do that. And I'm so excited that I get to work with them in bringing these vehicles to you, to ensure that you not only can accelerate your wealth, but protect it and preserve it and minimize that tax exposure. So one of the things I wanted to do here at the end is I wanted to kind of give a couple prizes. The first prize we wanted to give away is, I'm going to go ahead and pull up my money wheel here, or my wheel of names. And the first prize is going to be the book, Escaping Economic Slavery by Dr. Robert Needham. This is a powerful book called Escaping Economic Slavery, a Journey from Scarcity to Abundance Through Sharing Capitalism. Because, we know that there are many different vehicles out there to generate income. And a lot of times we're stuck with a traditional job. And so that can be really a slow, painful process, as we all know. Job stands for just over broke. They pay you just enough to keep you, but not enough to really help you get ahead. So understanding how to get out of economic slavery is going to be key. So I'm going to go ahead and spin the money wheel, or spin the got to call it the money wheel. See, I told you I felt like Alex Trebek, right? Spinning the wheel.
I love this, man. I love this.
So we're going to go ahead and spin the wheel here and see who wins the book. All righty, Arthur Armenta. So Arthur, congratulations. Just have you reach out to us with your email. Let us know how to best get a hold of you and get this book. You can either reach out to Tony or me at Roger, or just do TVG SSM, TVG, Tango Victor Golf SSM at pm.me, pm.me. So that's the first one. The second prize that we wanted to do here is we wanted to actually give away a full financial needs analysis, right? To kind of pull out your plan, look at what you've got going on. We look at everything, what your expenses are, what your insurance is. Let's take a good look at everything you have, and then we can recommend a solid plan to get you to where you want to be. And that runs about $500. We're going to give that one away for free as well. So I'm going to go ahead and spin the wheel for this one. And Kathy Mello. All right, Kathy, congratulations. Again, just go ahead and reach out to Tony or to me, and we'll be more than happy to get that taken care of for you. So I just want to thank you guys for everybody participating today. I appreciate Tony and Marlon for investing their time and their energy and their life experience to help each one of you with what you're going through and to give you some insight and some strategies, some practical strategies you can start to employ to ensure that you have a more secure financial future in the future. So, all right, guys. Well, look, I don't want to keep Tony. I know he's a busy man too. And so we just want to thank you again, Tony, for everything you're doing.
Thank you.
We appreciate the partnership we have with you. And I look forward to a rewarding future. I understand that one of the greatest testimonial when you're doing this type of business is when someone reaches out to you at the end of their life and they thank you for the policy that you put in place. You hear about, what's that story you were talking about it when they say, thank you, you were able to pay off my home or take care of my father's medical expenses. Those are powerful stories.
Powerful, very rewarding.
Yeah. So, all right, guys, thank you so much. We love you. God bless you. And we'll look forward to hearing from you. And in the meantime, continue your journey onward and upward. And we'll talk to you soon. Have a great day and God bless you.